Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today, 5:47 a.m. on Thursday, March the 13th, with the big blue mug of coffee. Thanks for being here. If you haven't subscribed, please click on subscribe. We'll make it to 13,000 today. So right off the bat, what do you think of? First thought when you see this picture right here. That is Premier Doug Ford of Ontario shaking the hand of Mark Carney. What did you think of first thing when you thought this? Now, I've thought about a whole bunch of things. I'm going to get to them in just a moment. The last one is the most important one. I'm going to hold off on that. I'm not going to make this video very long. But I actually commented on this story when I saw it yesterday. So let's click on the conversation here. We'll go down to the comments and I'll show you what I wrote when I saw this picture. And there is my comment right there. This country is severely damaged. Seeing Doug Ford shaking that world destroyer's hand sickens me. I don't think anybody else has called Mark Carney a world destroyer, but that's what I think of this man. And this is the story right here. Doug Ford talks to Carney, premiers ahead of Thursday's trade meeting in Washington. So Doug Ford is going to Washington to talk to Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary for Donald Trump, about this tariff war that's going on right now. So I jotted down a few things that I thought of when I saw this. So that was the first thing I thought of. Why is he shaking his hand? The other thing I thought of was that Mark Carney has no mandate. And maybe you're thinking the same thing as well. Do you think of that man as your prime minister? He'll be sworn in tomorrow. I don't think of him as that. He's never been elected. And my question would be, will Donald Trump even talk to him? He's never been elected. Trump might just say, come back and talk to me after the election. The other thing I thought of was Hurricane Sandy. Now you might think, why would I think of that? Now I think it was a tropical storm, but Sandy rolled through New York and New Jersey just prior to the second election of Barack Obama. And meeting Barack Obama in Jersey was Governor Chris Christie, who shook his hand, and it seemed like best buddies meeting up. And people blamed Christie for turning the tide in that election because Obama looked like a statesman. That's what I thought of when I saw this picture. The other thing I thought of was Danielle Smith is right. It will be diplomacy that will end this tariff war. Not all of this back and forth, not threatening the United States, not all this screaming and yelling about Donald Trump. It will be diplomacy. Danielle Smith has been on the diplomacy side since the very beginning. So that's what I thought of as well. Diplomacy will end the trade war. And I also thought, I don't think Mark Carney wants Doug Ford to be successful going down to Washington. They don't want this issue to be resolved by Doug Ford. This is the best thing that's happened to the Liberal Party going into an election, which may be called next week. I've said it here. I've been way ahead of the curve on this one, and I'm not trying to do a victory lap, but I said, and I look back, it was on February 24th the first time, and on March 4th when I said the Liberals are more concerned about getting reelected in power than they are about you. And here are those two clips. So the question I asked you, do you think the Liberals would sacrifice you as a Canadian taxpayer and the Canadian economy to maintain power? Because I think that's their plan. I think it's been their plan ever since we started hearing about terrorists from down south. I woke up with a couple of questions today. First question was, what has Justin Trudeau and our government, we don't have a government right now, the most dire situation in Canada in decades. We haven't got a government right now. What has Trudeau been doing since February the 1st? And is this exactly what the Liberal Party wants to happen? And I'm going to say it again. The Liberal Party cares more about power than they care about you. So not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but that's what I've been believing for a very long time. And more people are coming around to this. Here's Ezra Levant. This is from Rebel News, but he was talking with Dave Rubin. This is what Ezra had to say yesterday.
But to Trudeau and Trudeau 2.0, who just took over yesterday, it was the opposite. It's in their personal and political interest to not get a deal with Trump. And as crazy as it sounds, the more punishing Trump's tariffs are on Canada, the better it suits them to say we're the anti-Trump defenders.
So looking at that picture, I also thought, why is a provincial leader negotiating for Canada right now? This is unheard of. This does not happen. And the reason why Doug Ford is negotiating with Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary for Donald Trump, is because of negligence of the Liberal Party, who, going back to the last thing, have wanted this to happen all along. And this is ridiculous. This should not be happening. I don't want Doug Ford speaking for me. He has not got Alberta's best interest in mind. He wants us to put our tax on our oil going south. Danielle Smith says no. But the final thing is this. Nobody else, I want this answered, okay? What has Doug Ford got against Pierre Poilievre? Doug Ford has endorsed Mark Carney as the Prime Minister. He has. He's come out on the side of Mark Carney. Is there something in the background that I don't know about between Poilievre and Doug Ford? Because Doug Ford is endorsing Mark Carney prior to an election which could come as soon as the next week. We could hear about this next week. Because here's from that story. From the Calgary Sun, the Premier met Wednesday morning with Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney to discuss tariffs and free trade. The two had a productive discussion, agreeing on the need to stand firm in the face of Trump's tariffs, Ford said. Having Carney as Prime Minister could help turn a page in the Canada-U.S. relationship, Ford predicted. It's going to be a better relationship than with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And no disrespect to Prime Minister Trudeau, I can tell you one thing, Mark Carney has an extremely astute business mind, he said. He understands numbers, and so does President Trump and Secretary Lutnick. I think they're going to get along very well. They both come from the same financial sectors. Doug Ford has endorsed Mark Carney as Prime Minister. That's what I read into that. What has he got against Pierre Poilievre? And isn't Doug Ford supposed to be a conservative? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I do appreciate it. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you liked it, share it, and I'll see you in the next one.